Another law enforcement officer has shot and killed a black man. This time it happened to a military man who was at home, and the deputy was at the wrong door. That's according to the dead man's girlfriend. Now, should the deputy be held liable, or was it justifiable homicide? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the show. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and you're watching my journal. Now, while many people are in the middle of their Mother's Day celebrations, the mother and family members of Senior Airman Roger Fortson, they're planning his funeral after the 23-year-old was shot several times and killed by an Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputy. Now, Okaloosa County, that Fort Walton Beach is the in that area of Florida. Now, it's the latest incident where a law enforcement officer has come under scrutiny for a fatal shooting in the line of duty. The deputy's name has not been released. The deputy was just put on administrative leave while the shooting is under investigation. So that means the deputy is still getting paid, okay? And the deputy hasn't given an official statement in defense of his actions that we know of. Now, if you were on the end of shooting someone, they would have forced you to make a statement. They would have taken you down. We would know who you are because it would be public record. But let's take a look at Roger Fortson. Again, I'm Steffanie Rivers. You're watching my journal, and you might be watching on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever you're watching, on whatever program you're watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. I'm trying to bring up the photo of Roger Fortson so we can see him. And you might have already seen seen a picture of him. I got so many little gadgets that I'm working with, so I'll make sure that we get a picture of him. In the meantime, that's what we're talking about. Now I'll be watching the chat, so if you want to chime in, be sure and do that. And in the meantime, if you haven't already viewed the video, we're about to look at it. And then we're going to talk about it with our law enforcement expert, Dwayne Gibson. He's a retired FBI special agent. We want to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Special Agent. How are you?
Good evening, Stephanie. How are you? It's always my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. I was trying to bring up the photo of, let me see if I can bring it up just so we can pay homage, look at who we're talking about, and give our condolences to his family. There he is, Roger Fortson. He was only 23 years old, and you said you saw a video, and you also know that he worked on, you said, C-130 aircraft.
Yes, those are basically, most people know on these are called Spooky, Puff the Magic Dragon. It's basically a flying battleship with a 105 howitzer, 40 millimeters, 7.62 machine guns, depends on what the mission is, what they loaded with. So everybody doesn't get to do that. That's a highly technical and specialized field. So he was not lacking in intellectual powers.
Okay, and so and that's kind of what, that will speak to what is a question in my mind, is that if he, we'll get into it. First, I want us to look at the video of the cop cam of the person, of the deputy that shot and killed Fortson. So we're going to stop sharing that, and then we're going to go to the video. But again, if you want to chime in, you can via the chat because I'm watching the chat. And at this time, I guess it's the best time for me to say that the video, it was released by the sheriff's office. It is the cop cam video of the person who shot and killed a um, special, what was it? Airman,
Airman.
special airman Fortson. And this video could be traumatic for some. So it does show violence. Consider this a warning. If you have children or anybody nearby that you don't want to see this, then this is a good time to remove them from the area. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead now. I'll just preface it while I'm pulling it up. This is starting out with the sheriff's deputy who was called to the apartment complex. And so we're going to see or hear from the person who gave the information that led the deputy to go to apartment number 1401, which was Special Airman Fortson's apartment. So I'm going to go ahead and start it out and then make sure that I am. And I know you can't see it yet. Let's see.
2 weeks ago, I was walking by their apartment recently on this side, and I was hearing someone yell like, "Shut the fuck up, like you stupid B-word," or something like that. Like right after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from, and I couldn't call it. I didn't want to call the police. And shut the fuck up, like you.
Are they fighting or something?
Saying that it happens frequently,
Okay.
but this time it sounded like it was getting out of hand.
Okay, which door?
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it right there and say that the person who's walking him in is from the apartment complex, the management office, and she's saying she heard some arguing, and so she's showing him to the door area, showing the deputy where he can go knock on the door. That's what we're looking at, and they're walking right now.
I'm not sure, 2 weeks ago, I was walking by their apartment recently on this side, and I was hearing someone yell like, "Shut the fuck up, like you stupid B-word," or something like right after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from, and I couldn't call it. I didn't want to call the police.
Which room is it?
1401.
1401, okay.
Okay, so, and then I'm just going to stop this as we're going because the lady just said, I heard something before, like days before, hours before, I wasn't sure where it was coming from. So now this person who has invited the cops, the law enforcement into the situation just said she's not really sure where it was coming from, but now all of a sudden she feels sure enough to invite law enforcement into the situation, pointing them to apartment 1401. That's what's going on so far.
But the girl sounded scared, the one that called. She said, she was like, saying that it sounds like it's getting really out of hand.
So it's hit number 4 now? Okay. You would we stand up there and direct the deputy that's coming from this area?
It's not, you're gonna go up to the fourth floor, it's gonna be on this side.
Gotcha.
Now, this is 4 minutes long, but I think it's critical that we go ahead and look at all of this. So that's why we're going through this. So the elevator showing him going up to the 4th floor.
312-111.
So at this point, Special Agent Gibson, he is, in my opinion, listening for a disturbance that the person told him was happening on the other side of this door. I don't hear anything, and nothing was heard because we're going to keep listening and looking. Nothing said disturbance based on what we are hearing and seeing right now.
Sheriff's office, open the door! Step out. Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! 312, shots fired. Suspect down. Do not move! 312, get EMS my location.
Okay, I'm stopping that. Now, do we want to watch it again, or was that enough for us to go on?
That's enough.
Huh?
That's enough.
That's enough. Okay. So I'm going to click out of that and bring us back. Okay. So again, you're watching my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and we have Special Agent Retired FBI Dwayne Gibson, who is our resident law enforcement expert. Just going to walk us through this video of what your interpretation of what should have happened versus what happened, and how we can prevent this from happening as much as we can. So based off of what I saw, the sheriff's deputy didn't hear anything that sounded like a disturbance or see anything that sounded like a disturbance, but went up real aggressive, bam, 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 bam. You know, and not sheriff's office come to the door. I'm like, you know. So anyway, what did you see and feel when you saw that?
All right, I'm gonna go all the way back. And we first start where he's in the parking lot talking to someone from management. The white lady was in the left-hand corner, was blurred out.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope now they are having a long, detailed conversation with her about why she's pointing out 1401, because she's saying there's an active disturbance there. Like you said, when the deputy got there, he's standing there doing what most people do. You'll listen for sounds to give you a reason, see if it's exigent circumstances for immediate entry. He's actually doing his job, listening for any sounds that says there's an active crime scene on the other end of that door. That doesn't take long, as you saw in the thing. For me, I've only seen the 55-second version of this. I stopped watching when it first came out after I watched it. And I just thought back to my career of how you handle these things. This is my opinion. This is not talking for the agency I used to work for. If I was the case agent running this, I would be requesting the 911 call that came in. All subsequent call, which would include the call coming in, what they said versus what the dispatcher said, and when they call the officer, what they sent to him, whether it's just verbal or over a mobile display in his car. That sets the tone for his or her positioning when they get to the location of the incident. Walking up to the door, standard SOPs, standard operating procedures, walk up there. He's recording, which nice part he has a camera. Some cops don't like that. So that gives us everything that happened. Unfortunately, the airman opened the door with a pistol in his hand. My answer is don't answer the door with a pistol in your hand. Not saying you can't own one, but when you answer a door with a pistol in your hand, most people are going to be really upset. And, you know, as a black man, I'll speak for myself. Carried a pistol from 1979 to 2016. Always made sure I wasn't seen just walking around brandishing a weapon, because I've had one associate back in the day. We're out in, out in the valley in LA. He's in the supermarket. Wind just blows his jacket up. A woman calls in a black man in the supermarket with a gun. They got sheriff's department running down there. And he's standing there, what you guys want? I'm an FBI agent because he's got his gun, he's got his shield. So it's not like he's trying to hide, but like I said, I'm getting back to what I said, it's a long way around. I want that 911 call when he came in because it is recorded. And it also records what the dispatcher sent out to the police officer and whatever he typed into his mobile display. Those are the parts, well, I know the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is not running the case, but if I was one of their employees, agents, officers, that's my first key point to look at. I'm asking why, I know, the end answer is why did you shoot him? But I want the front end that led up to that in my mind. What were you sent up there to expect trouble, or was it just loud talking? Somebody playing loud music? I didn't hear any of that by the individual that worked on the premises, I guess. But just, safety first for your own personal safety. If you own a weapon legally, it doesn't have to be in your hand. I really can't talk about what he did because I don't know the young man. I do know I looked at what he did in the Air Force working on C-130s, which are a Puff the Magic Dragon. Basically, they're flying artillery piece. So that's not a job that anybody gets that doesn't have common sense and intelligence, know how to carry themselves well, because they're not going to let you get up in an aircraft that's firing out big bullets everywhere. I really can't argue that point that, he shouldn't have had the gun. I can say that honestly. I know people don't want to hear that. This is America. This is Florida. Constitutional carry, concealed license carry. Don't open the door with a gun in your hand. I mean, that's the simple answer.
Right. Now, apparently, his I'll start with this. Fortson's girlfriend, whose name is not public, she said she was on the phone with him at the time. And so she is according to her, the deputy went to the wrong address because he was alone. She said only his dog was there with him and she was on the phone with him. So there was no disturbance before or during that would have made anyone suspicious that there was something a domestic incident going on. So also, some might say that there could have been a disturbance prior to that, but as we just said, it's important for when the deputy shows up that she or he, you can't, even if you were sent there saying there's a disturbance or loud music, if you don't hear disturbance or loud music, then that should be what you go on. You can't go on. And I see he just the way he knocked on the door was like, okay, let me straighten somebody out. But there was nothing to be straightened out according to what we saw and heard. The Fortson family, they hired civil rights attorney Ben Crump to represent them. And no doubt they plan to sue. But my question is, who would they be planning to sue? They might want to be planning to sue the sheriff's department or the management company. And like you said, if we listen to the 911 call, people, it seems like Karens and Kens, these people who insert themselves into other people's business without without
knowledge,
without cause, and then they're not held responsible for what happens, the consequences. They should start being held liable civilly and criminally for these things that happen, especially when somebody ends up dead. That's in my opinion, because just because somebody, we just have to think these days, think things through. What if I do this? What might happen? How can I, get the situation handled and not cost somebody their life? And so, especially when the power, so many other instances have happened and what could go wrong. That's in my opinion. So I wanted to bring that out, but also talk about, that's not what our focus is today. Our focus today is the do's and don'ts of being Black in America while carrying a weapon in your house, on the street, in the grocery store. That's the scope of the conversation today. We're not removing it's not my intention to remove the responsibility from law enforcement on what they do and how they react. But we know that when you're Black in America, especially if you're a part of the 2A community, that you have to move in a certain way, carry yourself in a certain way that other people, white people namely, might not have to do. And before you say, oh, if somebody did that and they were a white person, they would have got shot too. Not necessarily, because I'm gonna show you a video later on of people who might have been in that situation and they walked away. And so there's that. So Dwayne, I didn't ask you before, but if you could come up with the top 5 do's and don'ts of being Black in America in the 2A community, what 5 things or 3 things could we say don't do? And I obviously one of those is don't just walk up to your door, open the door with a gun in your hand, especially if maybe he didn't hear law enforcement say, sheriff's department, maybe he didn't hear it, but why would you just go to the door like that anyway? And if you did hear them, how might you proceed? Now, I've been told that with technology today, a lot of people have electronic viewing, ring cameras. You don't even have to walk to the door. You can answer your door without going to it. Do you have a ring camera?
Oh, I have an Arlo camera around my house outside. So front door, side of the house, across my garage. And it does have a speaker in it. Only reason I put them up there because my eldest daughter lives with me, said, oh, never mind, I'll put them up. You want cameras because when you come home, you want to make sure everybody knows you're here, which is fine by me. Took me an hour to put them up. They're fine. Technology is a beautiful thing to have. Let's get back. You talked about how the deputy, knocked on the door. That's cop 101. Actually, I did a school career day last week, and I had to knock on the door to get the attention of one of the attendants to let me in. I just reverted back to the way I said knock on doors. That's just 101. And you brought up a point. I don't know how big his apartment was. And like you said, his girlfriend has stated that they were on FaceTiming. That gets back to when I was talking to 911, whoever is doing that should subpoena for all of their records for what their phone is doing. Because whatever your phone is doing, they can download the time frames when you take a text message, when you're typing, when it's active. But let's get back to him. He may have been in the back of the apartment talking to her in his closet, doing whatever. You hear somebody knocking, like you said, he may not have heard the sheriff's part. He may have just heard somebody knocking on the door aggressively. Okay, is that enough for me to grab my gun? No. Maybe it was for him. I don't know. I cannot speak for that gentleman. Unfortunately, he can't speak for himself anymore. But those items you were talking about, let's talk about you're a Black American walking around with a pistol legally. First of all, it's got to be legal. I don't need a felony calling my name. Don't have it just stuck in your waistband without a holster. Oh, don't let me forget this, most important. That constitutional carry was not made for us. Was it Texas, Florida? I think it's like 26 states have it. That's not for us. Constitutional carry, just wearing it outside just because you can, is not a good thing. As you said, there are men and women that you take your choice on any ethnicity you want. We'll call in. I saw 6'3" bald head Black man with a gray shirt and black sweatpants on walking down the street with a gun. They're not going to say, is it a holster? They're just going to say, I got a gun walking down the street, and they're scared. Like I said, that 911 call dictates how the responding individuals are keyed up before they get anywhere. But constitutional carry, I'd say, is a no-no for me and anybody that looks like me. Don't just have it stuck in your waistband without a holster. And we all call this thing printing. When you do have it in a holster, don't be wearing skinny jeans and tight-fitting T-shirts that just print out that you have a weapon on. That's another way to get somebody to call on you. Like I say, you got to have a quality holster. I said you got a holster, but you got to have a quality holster, and you have to be humble. A lot of people, just like when you strap in, there was a study done when I was in LA about when people drive their vehicles. Outside the car, they're extremely humble, peaceful, pleasant. They put them in these sports cars and SUVs. They became gangsters. Everybody's not supposed to have a gun because a lot of people forget there are how many million guns in this country? Everybody's got a gun for all intents and purposes. And just because you have one, okay, you have a gun. That means, in my opinion, you should be humble and not looking for trouble, looking to move away from trouble. Like, remember, you used to tell us at school, words can't break your back, words can't hurt you, just walk away from a fight. A lot of people don't know that anymore. I got a gun, I'm not moving. You bumped into me, let's have this argument. Why? You pull the trigger, you're potentially going to spend 23 hours a day in a box for 10, 20, 25 years. Most important thing is maintain your humility. If you want to carry a gun, I don't tell anybody not to. Make sure you understand how to utilize it, know the laws in your state, in your community, and always be willing to walk away. Because all you want to do is fight with somebody, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well for you. There's a whole lot of men of color, not just black, in jail because they didn't know how to walk away when they had a gun. I got a gun. It's my legal right to have one. I'm for that. But you don't get to just pull it out and shoot people. But getting back to this incident, if he was in the middle of FaceTime doing all that, that will come out. I can tell you, when I used to work in the FBI, I was working on civil rights violations, had 1 or 2 cases, police shootings. Shooting went down on Friday. I don't get the case till I come to work Monday. And by the time I get to the relatives who have been on TV and on the radio all weekend long complaining, I walk up to the door. I would think somebody would want to see me there if my black son got shot. You would hope that I have, compassion and willing to listen to you. And I've heard them say, nope, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah, that's a bad thing. Now, this family, like I said, I haven't been following it deeply because I don't want to, because that opinionates what I say about it. Hopefully, they have taken the initiative. They have an attorney. Hopefully, the attorney has told them what to say, how to say it. He does most of the speaking for them from this point forward. And Steffanie, you said what violations? Federal violations, the color of law. There's a bunch of things that can be utilized. No, it does not bring that 23-year-old young man back. Money does not soothe your pain. That's compensation for pain that you suffered for a mistake. I'm not saying it was a mistake one way or the other. You did ask, what is it possibilities to sue, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, those are always there. Color of law violations. Every state mimics the federal statute codes. So those are there. And I would think Attorney Crump knows them better, at least as well, if not better than I do. That's where he gets paid to bring those kind of suits to the forefront. When an officer acts inappropriately, discharging their firearms when they really shouldn't have, beat somebody, and things of those nature. So
now, so I was just writing some things down. You mentioned properly carrying your weapon, not just, having it. So having a holster or properly carrying it. And if you go inside of an establishment, making sure your clothing is such that it is concealed carry. Carrying yourself with humility, not being, not thinking that you are only one got a weapon, so you now hold some power because most other people have a weapon too. So know the law in your area. And I know you mentioned something that sounded to me like or I want to add, if you didn't say this, being aware of, especially if you're at home, understanding that technology can be your friend. You don't have to just walk up to the door with a weapon because you have it. There's ways to, until you know what's going on. I wouldn't have even personally presented myself at the door. I don't care if like you're trying to knock it down. I'm not going to open it for you. I might speak to you through the door and say, hey, can I help you? Like, what do you need? Are you at the wrong house? Because, if it comes out that the law enforcement officer was at the wrong house, then I just am not going to open my door because you say, Sheriff's Department, open the door. That's not how you get into where I live. You know what I'm saying? You need to tell me more than that. You need to say something about a search warrant, or who you looking for. Tell me who you looking for. You at the wrong place. Now I could be lying, but
No.
I'm not going to open the door just because you talk loud and say open the door. Although, you said that's cop 101, having that authoritative voice that works in most cases, I guess. But the more mature person that you are, that's not necessarily going to make you succumb to whatever they're saying. But I get it. That's what a peephole is for. That's why we have ring cameras and security cameras, that can help you to communicate without actually being face to face with someone. So these things are important. And I wanted to add that for those people, because I was watching a video the other day, a show, and they talked about this video that I'm going to show you. So I went to YouTube and found it. Essentially, it's the name of the YouTube video is Grandma Pulls Gun on Trooper. Okay. And so we are going to, let me see how long it is. Let's say, okay, we're gonna watch about two minutes of this. So it's starting with, it was a kind of like a traffic issue. This lady, she's considered to be an elderly white woman, was pulled over by a trooper for driving erratically or something like that. So they ran her tags, and then the tags came back that she had a warrant, I think. So she's going to end up telling her that, and she's going to ask the lady to get into my car and sit down while I try to figure out what we're doing. So then we'll go from there, because the lady is like, I'm not getting in the back of your car. Why I gotta get in here? So she's giving her attitude, and then it ends up she has a weapon. And so, but the lady ends up being able to drive away. So let me get this pulled up. In the meantime, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. I'm gonna start playing it, and then I'll see how I'm going to.
So this is the deal. I just ran this license plate and something came back, so I got to figure it out. So I'm just going to put you back here until I can figure it out, okay?
Can I shut my...
Let's just go sit here back here for right now.
Let me
Okay.
shut it off.
Nope. I don't want your car.
Let me...
Stay, ma'am. Do not get in that car. No! Don't!
A second camera angle from a nearby traffic camera captures what has Officer Frankfurth so startled.
That's all I have to do.
Ma'am, I don't want you. No, ma'am. Ma'am.
Wait a minute.
You're not allowed to come in here.
What?
No. Stay out of the car.
Let me...
Stay, ma'am. Do not get in that car. No! Don't!
The suspect, later identified as 70-year-old Jean Ann Hansen, brandishes what appears to be a silver handgun and points it directly at Lieutenant Frankfurth.
No! She got a gun! 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 She just pointed a gun at me, took off, charged Hardee's. I got a St. Paul officer with me.
Copy that. She pointed a gun at you and took off. Are you going to pursue her?
Okay, I guess she pursued her.
Negative, I don't see where she went.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there. So now I can play that back if you want me to. But so that was enough for us to see the woman didn't follow directions. She pulled away from the trooper. She went back to her vehicle, got a weapon and put it in her hand. And instead of the trooper fearing for her life, like they do when it's always a black person and they fear for their lives, she starts screaming gun, gun, like she ain't got one on her hip. Okay. And didn't shoot her, but ran off out of shot out of her line of vision, and then the woman ends up driving away. And then the trooper was so frazzled, she don't even know which way the woman went, but they ended up later on finding her and arresting her. So you mean to tell me, people, If that was a black person, that you don't think they would be a dead black person by now? Come on, y'all. So what do you think, Special Agent Gibson, about that video?
Terrible tactics. As Paul Mooney used to say, complexion for the protection. A white woman had another white woman decided she didn't want to be overly aggressive with her when she should have. The moment she decided she didn't want to pay attention to what I wanted you to do, I'm just speaking with me. I was always taught you start on the lower end, you work your way up. You try to use polite conversational things to get somebody to comply. Once that's gone, you keep going up the spectrum. The fact that she warned her, I think like 3 times not to go to the car, grabbed her arm once, she pulled away. It's fight time. Because for whatever reason, as we all found out, she had a pistol in the car. That's why most people understand when the cop asks you to get out the car, it's not because he knows you have a pistol, but he's trying to make sure that if you do have something that can harm him or yourself, it's not readily available for you. Now, admittedly, nobody wants to go sit in a cop car. Nobody wants to sit on the hood of a cop car. But sometimes, like I said earlier, you got to be humble. You got to understand the street is not where you try a case, especially if you look like me. You don't try the case on the street corner with the cop because you'll lose no matter what happens. Mr. Gibson, I need you to come back into my car. Okay, cool. Now, if you're smart, I don't know if anybody watches these videos on YouTube. They call it they're especially as smoking weed cases. They do DUIs and they tell everybody, cop tells you get out the car, get out the car. Just take your keys with you. When you step out the car, hit the lock and go stand in the back of the car. Is that legal? Perfectly. You know, is that going to make the cop mad? Probably. But it takes one more thing away from them to saying that, well, you were trying to, no, I locked the car. The keys in my pocket and no, you cannot have them. That is perfectly legal. Just got to understand the consequences for that as time goes forward, depending on where you're parked at. But yeah, politeness only gets you so far. Some people don't want politeness. Some people only respond to a aggressive engagement. So if you pull away from me, it goes from please don't do that to you get swung around, you get face down on the car. I'm not that officer, but I think she needs some retraining. That remember, your job is to go home at night. Very simple. That was my job for 27 and a half years. Go to work at 6, get my butt back home. Everything that happened in between was for the final objective to get home, be as safe as possible. And I can honestly say, no, I don't think I abused my power. I may have had some fun conversations with people, but I never went out of my way to violate anybody's rights. It was like, look, I'm actually do this the polite way, and we're going to work our way up till we get an answer from you. You know, if you decide you want to be froggy, well, it was what it was. Most people I found, even when I was gang and drug addiction, just treat people like you want to be treated 90% of the time, and they'll listen to you. Unless they're determined not to go back to jail or do you harm, doesn't make any difference. Talking is not going to work. It's going to be a physical contact at some point. But yeah, that one, yeah, she was trying to be too polite. 70-year-old lady can kill you just as quick as a 21-year-old man.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, in the movie, there was a movie where someone said, so a white lady can't be a terrorist, which was what, you know, he was joking, but essentially we think that the boogeyman or the bad person is going to look like a certain person when it could be anybody. And so, yeah, most definitely. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
The media's been playing this game for 100 years easy, if not longer, if you take the American history. Melanin has always been considered to be bad. There's some old videos out there back in the day. They've seen troopers in California stopping a white guy in a truck. Guy's got a big hunting knife up in his visor. Cop turns his head, sticks the knife through the guy's cheek, drives off. This is old stuff. It's just like Paul Mooney said it, complexion for the protection. You're supposed to treat everybody the same. Everyone, as I forgot what Marine Colonel said, hey, be nice to everybody, but have a contingency plan to deal with that. I'm not using the word T, I'm just using contingency plan. I'm not gonna say what he said. But his statement was very simple. Be nice to everybody, but have a plan to end the problem if it kicks off. That's what I was taught. And I tried to do it fairly to everybody. But some people don't believe in it. They'd be like, well, I'll take my chances beating you up and putting you in the hospital, and I write the report. Like I said earlier, you can't handle your case on the street. You handle your case in the courtroom.
Right.
Trying to preach that to some people, they look at me like I'm crazy. I don't get mad. I just say, okay, I told you so. Just remember. Hopefully you remember this if you ever get in a position where a cop says, Mr. Gibson, I need you to step out the car. Okay. Yes, sir. What can I do for you? Step out of the car and stand there and look at it. You don't have to argue with the cop. They ask you to get out. They have that right. The Supreme Court put that on the books. No, probably 15, 20 years ago. Part of an investigative stop on a traffic stop. Everybody out of the car. You aren't going to win that argument in court. And if you think you are, good luck with that, because it's not going to work. So nobody wants to get out of the car. Nobody wants to comply. And that's why in my opinion, it's why a lot of car stops go bad. I don't want to get out the car. Okay. Well, 6 of these, half a dozen of the other. Which one works for you? I like to go home at night. I'll take a little, okay, you got me standing out here. It's cold. Okay, what do you want? Nope. Okay, are we done? You have my ID. You have all of my stuff. It's like, okay, you're either going to write me a ticket or you aren't. You get a ticket, you go home, go online, take the course, unless you want people to get tickets all the time, and that's it. Pay your ticket. If you think you can fight it and win, okay, go for it. Your objective is to get to be a 100-year-old man or woman, die in your bed with your family around you. That's the final objective in life.
Amen. So going back, the do's and don'ts of being Black in America and the 2A community, having a holster that to carry your weapon if you're outside of your home, being humble when you carry it, and know the law in your area and use technology in your favor. Because there was a case, and then we're closing up. There was a case in Fort Worth, I think it was, wasn't it, Dwayne, where Tatiana Ali was in her home, and it was at night. Apparently, her neighbor called the law enforcement and said, "There's something going on at my neighbor's house." So the officer went around back and saw her in her home with the walk, because apparently she heard somebody's in my backyard. I don't know who it is. And so it turned out to be the cop, but she didn't know that. And so he shot her through the glass in her home because she had a weapon. And long story short, he's in prison right now. That cop, I don't know for how long, but that's what happened to him. So I'm not saying that is what's going to happen to the deputy who shot Roger Fortson, but we are in a day and age where some of these law enforcement officers are being held liable and accountable and criminally for their actions, and we just don't know what's going to happen, but it is they need to just think before they start making these grave consequences, and that's where we are right now. Did you want to add anything else to the conversation? Because I think those are good things for us to go by, as we move, or if you're even thinking about, because I can hear people now, Dwayne, saying, well, that's why nobody should have a weapon, or that's why he shouldn't have had one, and that's why I don't have one. It's like, that's not the answer. We all have the right, if you're an American citizen, the right to bear arms. And so just because people don't, behave a certain way when you have it, that doesn't mean you should deprive yourself of the right. You just have to know how to move.
True. I mean, it's a constitutionally backed privilege that we all own. Use it appropriately. If you're going to have a firearm, all the things we talked about, plus do some training, understand how the weapon functions. I know some people that have a single action weapon don't understand what that means. That means you have to cock the hammer before the shoot. They think they're walking around, they're ready to go. They aren't. A lot of people, well, I got a gun, I play Grand Theft Auto. I see John Wick. I see these movies. Those are movies. Everything in the movie is designed for the good guy to do whatever he wants to do and survive. The real world doesn't work that way. And like I always tell people, if you want to have a gun, get some firearms insurance also, unless you're walking around with $100,000 cash that you always have available. But yeah, talk to people. I'm not saying people like me. A bunch of people have concepts, understand, are willing to sit down and talk to you. Because if you walk out the door with a gun on, okay, I got my gun. This is Texas. I can wear it outside. Yes, you can. Do you understand what that entitles when you're out in the street? Cop can come up to you all day long, stop you. Hey, what you doing? Walking down the street. You got a gun on. Anything wrong? No. Is he wrong? Are they wrong for answering that question? No. What they're doing is waiting for you to make a mistake to give them a reason to take it beyond a simple conversation. Just because the government says you can doesn't mean you should, especially with a firearm. And go to the class. The concealed handgun license carry class will save you a lot of issues versus constitutional carry. You'll learn a few things. It'll open your eyes to things that you will constantly try to stay abreast of, because laws do change in various manners over from the first iteration when they pass them to 5-10 years down the road. They'll make adjustments because they thought they wrote a good law, but as time progressed, they find out there's a big opening in there where people walking right through. They had addressed. So humility and an objective to get home in the same way you left, quietly, peacefully, not trying to figure out how to pay a legal eagle to keep you from going to jail for the next 20 years.
True. And you mentioned classes. I know that you often hold, you go to the gun range, which is where we met, and you train people. I guess that's the right term. When we
help them understand the concept of, yeah, you got a gun, but do you know how to safely utilize it? And I try to point out, like, guys, I am not the know-all. I know guys that make me look like a bumpkin on the lawn that I used to work with. That's fine. But if you're out the range with them, we're going to have the same stance from the beginning to the end. Safety first. We'll talk about what you should know how to do versus don't do what the TV shows you how to do. Safety first. Deal with someone that has a fair amount of knowledge, is willing to talk to you in a peaceful way, not looking to boost their own personal ego, is my word. Someone that wants to sit down and tell you, hey, I can tell you this based on my experiences in life by myself and my coworkers. Those are things you should learn. I'm trying to pass them on to my daughters, which is fine by me. I don't want them out there just with their head, in the clouds. I'm teaching them situational, even though they're grown women, still teach them situational awareness to think about where you're going, when you're going, how you're going to get back home. Because daddy's not always going to be there. Your boyfriend's not going to be there. Your husband's not going to be there. And I know I'm not being chauvinistic. I'm just saying these are the easy words. That goes both ways. Women, if you got the gun, that means you have the protector's role for all intents and purposes. I know a bunch of women that have guns. And, if you got the gun, you're the major protector. I hate to tell you that. Because I met some guys that are totally against guns, which is weird, right? Most people think guys, as kids, we play cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians and all, and we all got wooden guns running around. But there are men that I know that have grown up, are totally averse to having a gun in their life. Some of their girlfriends and wives, they're ready to go. And they have the protector's role. Just know that if you got the protector's role, you need to know all the things we talked about. Don't start a fight, because the law says if you get in a shooting, you can't have started the fight and then walked away and then shot somebody. It doesn't work that way. If you started the fight and the person starts defending themselves and beating you, you can't shoot them because you started the fight. A lot of people don't know. They think, well, he was beating me, but you started the fight. You can't be the instigator and the victim at the same time. So
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Question. So I've had my and I hope this never happens, but I've had my vehicle broken into in my condo community in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said to myself, if I find somebody in the act of breaking in my car, I'm going to whoop their ass. Okay. I'm just going to start fighting them. So let's say we start fighting and then they start fighting me back. Mm-hmm. Would I still be not able to shoot them?
You initiated the contact. When you place hands on them, you started the fight. You can't go back and say, well, they started whipping my tail, I got to shoot them now. It's not going to work out that way. Because you got to, well, not that I'm being funny. If they live, you know their side of the story is going to come. Oh, yeah, I was breaking into her car. She walked up behind me, hit me in the face, and the fight was on. I started whipping her, and she pulled out a gun and shot me. You just lost the case.
Huh.
I mean, in Texas law is weird. Let's say your car is parked in your driveway in your house, your work truck. Say you work on your truck, you're somewhere in construction or whatever. Your tools in your truck. The law kind of says you can shoot somebody for trying to steal that. But the problem you're going to have is when you get to court, do you have car insurance? Is that replaceable? Did you have the 1 in a million drill? No. The law says you can. Remember, what you do on Monday morning is going to get Tuesday morning quarterback by people that don't know nothing about when it went down. Well, like you said earlier, if you have a home, apartment, put a ring. I don't think they stop you from putting a ring doorbell on your apartment, house. Outside cameras aren't that expensive. You can buy what? Arlo's. I think you get a 3-pack of them for like $200.
You know what? We've been trying to talk the HOA into doing what you just said, putting up cameras all over the place, but they claim it's just so expensive. But anyway.
Keep this Arlo. Look Arlo up when we finished. ARLO.
Okay.
You can buy a 3-pack of them for, I think it's like $200. How do I know? That's what I got. And then you can either pay for the service, which I don't, or you just get yourself a hub that you can buy off of Amazon and keep all your data right at your house. So there are a number of ways to, in this day and age, to kind of filter out what goes on that you can't see. Arlo cameras, Arlo isn't the only one. That's just the one I got. So I'm not going to speak for everybody else. But, you get them up, you put them up, you mount them on the wall. You either just recharge them whenever it needs to recharge, or you get a solar panel charger for it, and they run forever. You can sit on your phone and look at them, sit at your computer and look at them. And it has voice communication both ways. So if somebody's at your door, no, I don't want to talk to you. Get off my property.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to answer the door for everybody.
True. Okay, I thought I would ask you that because I've already envisioned walking up on somebody breaking in my car. It's gonna be on and on. I'll just say that part.
If you start that contact physically, you're protecting your property. You don't get the pleasure of going back and pulling out the gun to shoot them if they happen to start getting their hands on you and they start winning. You can't just turn around and shoot them, because if they don't die, they're going to admit to, yep, I was in her car. She walked up behind me, hollered at me, and knocked me in the back of the head. Next thing I know, we're fighting, and I started kicking and stomping. Next thing I know, she shot me.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Because I've had this conversation with some guys before. They're talking, oh man, if I catch somebody in my driveway and they're breaking in my truck, I'm gonna shoot them. I'm like, okay, Texas law says you can shoot them, but when remember, you don't get to go to trial for 6 months, a year, 18 months, whatever. In that time frame, somebody like me has done a whole bunch of interviews. Do you have insurance? Is that a one-of-a-kind tool you're protecting? And all those things will play out in the courtroom. Now, admittedly, the person you probably shot got their own court case, but why do you want a court case for a drill, some chisels, work boots, things of that nature?
Okay, so I just have to make sure that I beat them up with my fist and it doesn't get deadly. It doesn't get to the
if you initiate contact, it's you initiate the contact. That's what the rule book says. I'm not telling you how to do it. The rule book says if you start the fight and you start losing, you can't just go get a gun and start shooting them. That's not going to be well for you.
And of course, it wouldn't go down like that, Dwayne. But I understand what you're saying.
I'm just hypothesizing that the rule book says you can do this, but the court says other things. Most people don't think. They say, "Well, I caught him breaking into my car." Okay, you have car insurance? Ding. Did you have the almighty diamond 242 karat diamond sitting in your front seat that you can never replace? No. Ding. Small things that people don't think about. Well, I caught him breaking into my car. Okay. Next. That's not, the law says, the law says you can shoot him. Should you? Probably not.
Correct. Now that we've had this conversation, I feel differently.
No, I mean, like I said earlier, go go to a, if you're gonna carry a weapon, get a concealed handgun license course under your belt. That's the beginning. And that opens. Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah, that's a lot of stuff they tell you in that course that'll keep you out of trouble. Then, talk to people, talk to police officers, talk to firemen, talk to a bunch of people. They'll tell you different tidbits that they see all the time that you don't want to have attributed to you if they ever show up at your house. Don't be out there, beating the neighbor's dog and then get mad when the neighbor comes over and starts whipping you with a stick and you shoot the neighbor. Doesn't end well for you.
I'm with you. All right. So I appreciate you being able to share some of your expert advice on the do's and don'ts of being Black in America and a part of the 2A community. If someone wanted to reach out to you to join one of your sessions at the gun range, how might they find you?
DallasDwayne@gmail.com.
DallasDwayne@gmail.com. All right, I'm going to try to put that in here.
All we do is we sit and talk. I explain the basics to you, things you should understand if you're going to own a gun. I'm not trying to teach you anything about John Wick, SEAL Team 6, Delta, any of those fun people. I don't know any of those people.
Okay, I'm going to try to show that. DallasDwayne@gmail.com.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty then. So, and hopefully I will see you soon at the range myself. So have a great rest of your day and we will keep in touch.
Yes, ma'am. Be safe out there. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. All right.
So we want to thank you as well for being a part of the conversation. We've been talking about the do's and don'ts of being Black in America and a part of the 2A community in light of the shooting death of Roger Fortson in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, by that deputy that came to his door, and Fortson had a weapon on him, and now he's dead because the deputy shot and killed him. So we'll keep up with what's going on. And to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thank you so